A street sign cannot erase 70 years of betrayal. Emancipation Weekend and the PNM's Selective Memory of Kwame Ture, an editorial by Anil Roberts. Trinidad and Tobago spent Emancipation Weekend in celebration, and into that celebration walked the PNM City Corporation with a ceremony renaming a stretch of Oxford Street after Kwame Ture, the revolutionary formerly known as Stokely Carmichael. Drums sounded, PNM dignitaries stood beaming beneath a fresh green and white street sign, and the People's National Movement allowed itself to be photographed as though it had always stood with the man. It has not. It never did. And the record of exactly what the PNM did to Kwame Ture is not buried in obscure archives. It is a matter of public history that any of the party's current spokespeople could have read before they picked up a microphone. Kwame Ture was born on that very street in June 1941 before his family emigrated when he was a boy. He went on to become one of the defining voices of the American civil rights and Black Power movements, a founding figure of the Black Panther Party, and a Pan-African organizer whose influence stretched from Mississippi to Conakry. In August 1967, the government of Dr. Eric Williams, the PNM's founder, declared him an undesirable person and barred him from returning to the country of his birth. That was not a bureaucratic oversight. It was a deliberate political choice by a party that built its entire electoral coalition on the loyalty of Black voters, made at the exact moment those same voters were watching a Black revolutionary rise on the world stage. The band did not end with Williams. It survived the transition to George Chambers, and it survived the rise of Patrick Manning. For nearly 3 decades, successive PNM administrations left Kwame Ture unable to set foot on Trinidadian soil, even as he grew ill with the prostate cancer that would eventually kill him. It took a change of government to correct it. In 1996, under Prime Minister Bastio Pandey and the United National Congress, the ban was formally lifted. Kwame Ture came home, touched the soil he had been exiled from since childhood, and was given a hero's welcome by Prime Minister Bado Pandey, Ralph Maharaj Minister of Tourism, and Wade Mark Minister of Public Administration. The Pandey's cabinet went further still, approving support toward his medical care as he fought his illness in exile. He died in 1998, a year and 9 months after finally being allowed to return. Set beside that history, yesterday's ceremony reads less like recognition and more like a costume. The request to rename Oxford Street had in fact been sitting since 2019 under a PNM government, under a PNM Prime Minister, with a PNM cabinet free to act on it at any time. It did not move. It has taken a change of administration and an Emancipation Weekend calendar for the PNM to discover an appetite for the gesture it declined to make while it held every lever of power. This is not a party that lacks the receipts of its own record. Under the last PNM administration, funding to Gate was cut sharply, tourism and hospitality training at Chaguaramas was shuttered, the nursing program was scaled back, and support for national sporting bodies, the overwhelming majority of whose athletes are of African descent, was reduced from well over $100 million a year to a fraction of that figure. Those were not abstract line items. They were the pathways by which working-class Black and brown households in this country moved their children into the professions, into sport, into the middle class. Cutting them while claiming the legacy of Kwame Ture in the same decade is not a contradiction the party can talk its way around with a ribbon cutting. None of this is an argument against honoring Kwame Ture. He deserves the recognition, the scholarship, and yes, the street sign. But recognition offered without an accounting of who banned him, who kept the ban in place for a generation, and who finally ended it, is not history. It is public relations dressed in emancipation colors. If the PNM wishes to claim Kwame Ture's legacy honestly, the first requirement is honesty about Eric Williams, and the party has yet to demonstrate it is willing to meet that bar. Before the PNM can be taken seriously on this, it owes an apology to Kwame Ture's memory, to the man once known as Stokely Carmichael, to his family, to Black Trinidad and Tobago, who watched their own government exile one of their champions. Nothing said this weekend meets that bar because nothing said this weekend has acknowledged a debt is owed at all. That silence fits the party's history. For 70 years, the PNM's pattern has been to build its power on the loyalty of Black African people and then govern away from them, withholding resources from those communities and redirecting them to the elites, financiers, family, and friends. A street sign changes none of that. Only an honest apology, followed by a change in who the PNM actually governs for, would begin to. UNC Senator Anil O. E. Roberts, Minister in the Ministry of Housing,